chose a bad time to read the Harry Potter series for the first time. How's it going, everybody? The time has finally come for my first Wheel of Time review, and it's about the 12th book, so a little late. If you haven't seen my admittedly too long, rambly review of all the previous books and what it's like going into the series completely blind, please check that out. I may be referring to it here and there in this video. While you're there, please go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it. I know it's a bit rough. Let me know in the comments which Wheel of Time book is your favorite and what you knew about the series before starting it. So I have good news. I really liked Knife of Dreams. I was worried. My most popular video on this channel by far is the one where I talk about my experience starting Wheel of Time without knowing anything about it. Like I said, at this point, I am fully aware of the slog. I'm fully aware that Crossroads of Twilight is pretty much the worst Wheel of Time book, even if it isn't my personal least favorite. And I'm fully aware that people love Knife of Dreams. So I was worried that I would disappoint you when I reveal that I didn't like it. Luckily, I don't have to do that because I loved it. 4 out of 5. The book did start off a little meh for me. I think I just wasn't ready to start the next Wheel of Time book, and I had to kind of force myself to read it. It was also like the longest prologue so far, clocking it at almost 100 pages. That would be a little more than an eighth of the book. And Wheel of Time prologues are unique in that I space out for about 2 hours and then all of a sudden they're done. But once the bulk of the book came into focus, I really realized why people love this one. One of the best things about this book was that it returned to what I consider a certain storytelling format. Yeah, I know any story that is told through storytelling, but there's this different format and method to this sort of like campfire story where you're recounting this history. And I really think that Wheel of Time is a great example of that. I don't feel like I'm reading a fictional event that happened. It feels like a real world thing that was a recorded history, and I'm reading a history of actual, factual, recorded events. Eye of the World didn't really feel this way for me, but from The Great Hunt on, it does. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. The last 3 books, it really hasn't worked. Sometimes the story just isn't interesting enough. I wouldn't believe that someone felt the need to write about Matt being an Ibu Dar for... It was only 1 book, but when I looked it up, but I could have sworn there was like 4 books where Matt was just stuck in Ibu Dar. It sounds silly out loud no matter how I say it. I mentioned in my last Wheel of Time video that the slog, specifically Path of Daggers through Crossroads of Twilight, it all could have been condensed into 1 book very easily. Sure, there's character stuff that a lot of people defend, and that does happen in those books, but nothing too important or non-redundant that it couldn't have been translated into a single book. For the record, I do refer to the slog academically. I don't believe in it, as I said in my other video. A few bad books a slog does not make. Another thing Wheel of Time does is that it doesn't keep me guessing, but in a great way. I wanted to bring this up in my Game of Thrones video that I just did, but God knows that video was long enough. Game of Thrones, both the first 4 seasons of the show and A Song of Ice and Fire, are told in a way that doesn't encourage massive predictions to be made. Theories are welcomed, but the story is told, like I said, as with Wheel of Time, historically and factually. So, like Game of Thrones, Wheel of Time doesn't leave any sort of desire to foresee what's coming. Chapters don't usually end on cliffhangers, and the text isn't usually ambiguous or have any sort of double meaning or intentionally confusing and vague. When something happens, it's recorded in the text. And I bring this up because this book returns to that sort of campfire storytelling method. Knife of Dreams just kept hammering interesting story at you, and it wasn't even all action. Sometimes the war scenes in Wheel of Time, specifically the ones in like Lord of Chaos and Crown of Swords, they just don't click with me. It's not the writing is bad or the scenes aren't good. It's just that they feel unwarranted or underexplored. The wars in Crown of Swords seemed defensive from the perspective we were seeing them from. and they just feel like they came out of nowhere, and often they feel like they're over just as quickly. Although the wars in Knife of Dreams were all a little short-lived, less than a chapter usually, they felt like they were rounding out 3 books of build-up because they were. The slog was the calm before the storm. But like I said, the less action-oriented times were just as interesting to me for the first time in a while. In the last few books, it feels like way too many chapters are devoted to catching characters up on events that we, the reader, are already aware of, and their reactions never felt deserving of like entire chapters. But Knife of Dreams only had one of those by my count. I noticed it happened in chapter 25 because it was the first time in the entire book this happened. It was really refreshing to actually feel the plot pushing forward each chapter again, like it did in the early books, the first 3 specifically. It really felt like a return to what I fell in love with Wheel of Time for, and I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that. Another big change that happened for me kind of overall with Wheel of Time is that this book finally cemented in my mind that rereading the series is worth it, 12 books in. The reason it finally sunk in that a second read through is necessary is that some characters don't jump out at me naturally. There's a million named characters and it's impossible to keep track of all of them and who they are and where their alliances lie. So going back and knowing that, for example, Massima is who he becomes, and it would make it clearer if I knew that. It would make me feel the need to kind of pay attention to him a little closer when he first shows up. And as far as negatives go, I really only felt burdened by the beginning, and that might have just been on me and the mood I was in. Knife of Dreams has been my favorite Wheel of Time entry since Fires of Heaven. I'm looking forward to the next few. Gathering Storm actually just arrived last week. I ordered it at the beginning of May from a used bookseller, and it finally got here, I think on like June 8th maybe. So just in time. But I am excited to dive into how Sanderson takes on the role of the penman of the series. I'm also reading Chronicles of Narnia right now, a majority of which I have never read. It's just nice to have something short that I can pick up and pretty much read in a day. I'm definitely going to be doing a little video essay on the adaptability of literature based around that series. I also still want to do that movie commentary video that I talked about in my last video. I think that will be coming next. Gathering Storm may be a while, but please like this video and stay subscribed so you can get a heads up when I do talk about it. I appreciate all of you. I would love for all of you to share this video with friends and family who might like Wheel of Time. Introduce them to my channel. I'm going to be doing a lot of nerd stuff here. I hope you appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Love you all. Peace.